hopefully. Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 223. As always, I'm going to start us off with a bit of a tune to allow people to get into the chat and what have you.
Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need. To wait in heavy harness on flooded folk and wild. Your new gods sullen peoples have devil and have child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, 100 times made vain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace. Fill full the mouth of famine and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for the sword, what's love that heed and folly? Bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of serf and sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of those ye humor are slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, a loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall weigh your gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days, the lightly profit laurel, the easy ungrudged praise. Come thou to search your manhood through all of thankless years. No age with dear bought wisdom, the judgment of your peers. Take off the white man's burden through all the thankless years.
And that was, of course, the excellent Chris Gard. Do go and check out Chris Gard's YouTube channel. Got some really good music on there. Good evening to my guest, Mitch. I don't know if we got anyone else joining us this evening. I know Aaron Hook is not feeling too good, so he's not joining us. But I did send invites to some other people, including, of course, Atterman, who I hope will be able to join us. How are you going, Mitch, this evening?
Same old. I don't know what we're going to talk about tonight. I mean, as I said before, Shane, like I've been rather out of the loop the past few days. All it really is like, okay, so you have the South Africa situation where Trump got ambushed that Ramaphosa fella, and you had a sitting congressman pretty much post that famous clip of Leonardo DiCaprio, Rhodesian fella. I can't remember the name of the film.
Blood Diamond.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, Blood Diamond. Yeah, he does a pretty good Rhodesian accent in that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you've got this Chagos Island situation where the deal is supposed to be finalised. The Americans are giving the green light, and we're giving so much money away that it's actually come to something like 2% of Mauritius GDP.
Yeah, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds of British taxpayers' money that we're going to pay Mauritius to take over a place they've never had anything to do with.
Yeah, and we've been told by Starmer that we must do this deal in this particular way. Otherwise, we will lose all sense of legal policy.
Utter bullshit. It's just the United Nations bullshit thing. The United Nations would prefer it if Britain gave up Gibraltar and gave up the Falkland Islands. Do people want to do that?
Are we not a permanent security member as well? So we just veto anything in that place.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if the fact is Britain can veto anything at the UN. If Britain doesn't like it, we just use our veto and that fuck you UN basically.
There have been historical incidences where the Russians literally screwed over their own sort of legal morality, quote unquote, in the eyes of what Starmer would consider it, because the Russians decided to invade Hungary or something during the 1956 revolution there, or they sent tanks into Prague, and the UN voted against it, but the Russians or Soviets vetoed it. There's no reason why we can't just take. There's no reason why we can't just take our own side on this. As for this whole thing about, as Stephen was saying about, young Ukrainian bomb boys having a go at Starmer's house.
Supposed red boys.
I'm not going down this rabbit hole, so I'll give way to you on this one.
I just, to Steve, I will just say I've assumed that Starmer's gay for a long time now. It doesn't surprise me at all that Ukrainian rent boys are found in number 10. He's obviously a gay man. He's not, his marriage is some sort of sham, I believe.
The funny thing is, I think the funny thing is, you can't
trust anything he says. You can't trust anything Starmer says. Sorry.
The funny thing is, if all this turns out to be true, it will be the most interesting thing we've discovered about Starmer in his whole long career. I'm not saying something about him, but this is the only sort of anything approaching personality from him. Really, which is the closest thing in terms of personality we can find of the guy.
I just think he's vile, Mitch. I think he's vile. I think he's an enemy of the real British people. I think the whole Labour Party are enemies of the real British people, but I think Starmer's a particular example. Look at the people thrown into prison over tweets, and then you constantly will see immigrants who beat women up and beat children up and stuff like this, and they get suspended sentences. You know, the idea that Britain doesn't have a two-tier justice is insanity, because we do.
Yeah.
What's funny? The justice system in Britain is broken, and it's broken against the real Anglo-Celtic people of Britain.
Yeah, what's funny is that Lucy Connolly situation. We were all on her side until we found out no, it's just a matter of Starmer doing friendly fire upon a woman who sponsored a Nigerian family coming over and getting citizenship.
Yeah, no, I saw that, mate. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I still don't think she should be in prison, to be honest. I don't think anyone should go to prison for tweets. You know, if you're not directly threatening violence against an individual, then it shouldn't matter. Frankly, you know, I am a reasonable believer in free speech. You know, I don't think you should be able to do direct threats of violence or anything like that, but merely saying you don't like Islam or whatever it might be, there's no way that should land you in jail or even visited by the cops. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's like the whole, like, I mean, you see like the average shit-lived response to this go, oh, well, she said she's okay with migrant households burning down, and go, it was a statement more of apathy rather than clear intent or clear. So it's a different kettle of fish saying she wants hotels to be burned down. And secondly, she deleted the tweet straight thereafter, so she knew straight away. She shouldn't have said that. I would have considered that massive code.
It wasn't something that deserved a visit from the cops, let alone going to prison. It's just insanity. And then there was, I don't remember if he was Nigerian or Somalian. I mean, they're all much the same anyway. But guy who beat up some girl outside a railway station got a suspended sentence. Because the girl he beat up, I don't know if it was a white girl or another immigrant girl, but suspended sentence for that. But do a tweet, go to prison for 3 years. It's insanity. And it's partly because Britain's been taken over by activist left-wing judges. Yeah,
I wonder how. I think David Stark, he said something about this on that piece of McCormack's show, where he said basically for anything approaching actual judiciary that works, it's not like you can just go, oh well, keep putting new guidelines and shaky things about a bit. You'd have to completely purge the institution and restart from scratch, because plenty of these people are just like full on ideologically bent on battery farming foreigners to live with us.
The judges are part of the problem, for absolute sure truth. And also we're getting more and more immigrant judges, in case people haven't noticed, but
Yeah, the other thing is, apparently the newly elected mayor of Derby was photoed with an AK-47. That's nice.
Lovely. Lovely. And they won't get a visit from the police, of course.
No. The guy's not wise enough to get a visit from the cops that way. Derby.
You got to be to get a visit from the cops. Otherwise, they just don't care. If you're a black person, you can go on about black supremacy or Muslim supremacy or whatever you want, and no one cares. It's only white Anglo-Celtic people who get visits from the cops.
Yeah,
and I mean, our rulers think people don't notice this,
Well, at this point of the game, it's more like they just revel in literally stuffing their nose, isn't it? It's like you take, for example, cops. They tasered a 93-year-old elderly man in a care home. I'm not really serious with that. Basically, they kicked him. I don't know what they were called there to begin with, but basically, he was holding like a butter knife, and because he was scared, and the police, instead of calming him down and taking the knife, instead they tasered him to a point where he actually died in hospital as a result of a shock. So
nothing will happen to those policemen, I can guarantee you.
Oh no, those cops are being done for it. Now, the case. They're not. Well, the case hasn't completed, but perhaps they might get done for it. I don't know, or perhaps they just slap him on the wrist. Either way, it's kind of because it's not the same with that cop who it's not the same with that female cop who had a 15-year-old autistic girl arrested from underneath in her own house because she said, "Oh, the police officer looks like a lesbian now," or whatever it was in Yorkshire. Way. You don't hear, you don't hear of what
Yeah,
happened
no,
with
I
the
saw
cop.
that one. Yeah, I remember that. We covered that on this stream. Yeah, we
Yeah, I
covered
don't.
that on this stream. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, I don't think much
I mean,
happened to her, as far as I know.
yeah, we have. I have. We don't know what happens to these police officers when they do sadistic crap like this. I mean, all of it's just sadism. It's kind of like it's like if you read about the 1917 February Revolution in Russia, the cops were the most victimized group of the revolutionaries because, of course, the police were known for the brutality towards any sort of anti-Tsarist uh, rebel group or whatever. So the police, a lot of them would be caught by the revolutionaries and they'd be killed off in really gruesome ways. So that's kind of what the police are summoning onto themselves for more of a behaviour like this. Because at some point,
Yeah, yeah.
the courts are correct.
I just think they've been. I just think the British police forces, from top to bottom, have been pretty taken over by the same sorts of people who are friends with Starmer and judges and work for the Bias Brainwashing Corporation. I think these sorts of people have taken over like most of the British establishment, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah, it's like
you increasingly see military officers in Britain who are these sorts of people as well, and they weren't even a relatively few years ago.
yeah, so I had a cousin who was working in a police force up at Wolverhampton, back in like 2013, and he ended up quitting because he just couldn't do his job properly. Like he was actually one of the few good ones, but he just said, "Oh yeah, he says Asians because he starts a BPC about his language, but basically means the Muslims. They all stick together. They never rat each other, and he can't do his job of actually arresting, let's say, rapists or whatever, because they all just stick together, and he just grew tired of it and just. I don't know what he did, but he didn't do policing work ever again after that. He just retired out. He just moved out to the countryside and just
Yeah,
something else.
it's no great surprise, is it? Really? I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
like
know. You look at AI has just sent me a message that he won't be joining us this evening. Sorry, carry on.
I was just saying the other thing was I don't like there's a clip going about I think it's Clapham I think it was in London. But like the tube station there, they're having to bring in like metal detectors, but everyone has to go for them, starting knife crime. And I'm sat there thinking, from what because I don't know London. Clapham, I believe, is one area where a lot of young professionals, the actual taxpayers, go through like to the tube station. Whereas you take somewhere like Lewisham or Brixton or whatever, you don't see about metal detectors used there. So it's pretty much just
No.
humiliation ritual for the actual taxpayers. You know, the young professionals, who are mostly native Brits, they just have to go
Yeah,
through all the hoops and whatnot. They all have to just get routinely humiliated about the knife crime and so on. Meanwhile, the actual knife crime demographics, they don't get someone to slap on the wrist. And you just sit there thinking,
yeah, very true. Very true, Mitch. Aubrey in the chat is asking if I'm going to talk about the Karen Reed case in America. I'm not this evening, Aubrey I'm sorry. I have been following the Karen Reed case in the US, Mitch, which is a clear case of she should never have been brought to trial. There's basically no evidence that she hit anyone in her car, let alone killed them. And the trial is on like day 20. It's paused at the moment till next week, and it's on day 20, and it's all been the prosecution so far, obviously, and their witnesses have all been total shit, and they've produced no real evidence that she hit anyone. It's the fact that she's on trial for her life or for 20 odd years in prison is just absolutely insane, if you ask me. And you watch the judge there, I think her name is Beverly Cannoni, and she's the most biased judge I've ever seen. Although, of course, they don't always televise British courts. So I'm not saying British judges are not equally biased, because we were talking about those arseholes earlier on in the stream. So, but yeah, I don't know. At least in that case in America, there's possibly some remedy with the federal courts and appeals and this kind of stuff. Whereas in Britain, if you get done, basically, the British appeal system is pretty much designed to turn you down. So, yeah. Sorry, Mitch, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just answering somebody in the chat.
I was just going to say, I don't know. I don't know anything about this case. I'm really outside of the loop on the news, because I haven't heard about anything about this. Is it something like a white woman apparently did something to a black person or something?
No. It's this chick was a girlfriend of a cop, and after they'd been drinking, they went to visit people he kind of knew who were also cops. And later on, he was found lying almost dead in the snow outside, because it was in winter, like several years ago. And the theory is that he probably got in a fight and was killed by the other cops in the house. And because they were cops, the cops investigating the crime, of course, didn't properly investigate it, because they would never want to do other cops, basically. Corruption, you know.
Yeah.
And so they came out with this ridiculous theory that she managed to reverse her massive SUV at 24 miles an hour on an icy road in a blizzard, hit this bloke somehow or another on the arm, and then he did some massive pirouette in the air, and then dropped down and hit his head and killed himself on snow, which generally won't happen. Like snow will cushion your fall. And also, he's got obvious dog bites all the way over his arm. And these cops in the house had a German Shepherd who was known to be a bitey German Shepherd. And strange to say, after 7 years, they got rid of this dog. And, you know, people who are dog lovers like myself will tell you nobody gets rid of a 7-year-old dog. If you've had a dog for 7 years, you got him for life, basically. But they got rid of the dog, and they also sold the family house, having completely remodeled the basement. Strange to say. So yeah, I don't think this chick hit this guy at all, to be honest with you. And having watched 20 days of the trial, quite honestly, the state has produced no evidence that she did either. So, you know, if she gets convicted, I will be flabbergasted, frankly. And yeah. This is a second trial, because the first one, the jury couldn't come to a verdict.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is, like yourself, for example, if I walk from a town, I'll see someone graffitiing ACAB, all cops are bastards. And of course, in America, that's a very left-wing coded phrase, because you have a whole back the blue or something like that, or basically, like a lot of American conservatives are generally pro-police because it's a different dynamic of them. Whereas over here, it's completely different. Like, we all just hate the police. Like, the police are just completely irredeemable. They're nothing like the Robert Peel days, where it was actually all about preventing crime. It's all about now just policing for crimes. You might get that ex-police guy, I think his name was Miller, who was the first high-profile case where it's like, we're here to check your thinking. And it's ballooned from there into just like, you get someone like sort of a Tamworth way, for example, you get a nurse who gets arrested because she videoed a riot. She didn't take part in the riot itself. She just videoed it, and she gets arrested. That's generally why that's one little nuance that a lot of Americans don't catch on to when we say, because there are some people on our side of it here on Anglo Twitter who will have ACAB bio or something, and Americans misinterpret what we mean.
Yes, no, that's very true. I mean, I don't know. It's like there's always been a certain amount of corruption within the police, right? It was middle class people had a very rose-colored picture of the police, even in the old days, because there's always been a certain amount of corruption in the police force and what have you. People who think they're all wonderful were kidding themselves. But on the other hand, by and large, if you weren't interfering with other people or breaking laws and reasonably serious laws, the cops generally left you alone in the old days, which nowadays they don't. Nowadays they want to control what you think and what you tweet. It's just it's insanity. It really is, and I mean, we were talking on the Discord, Mitch, about Apostolic Majesty the other day, and I can see why he's so cynical and so what's the word? Pessimistic. I can see why he is. I'll be honest, I can. I can see why he is. It's like, I mean, are there some positives? Yes, there are some positives, or certainly there are some possible positives. You know, reform might change things. I don't know. Possible. Hope they do. But there's an awful lot of not positive stuff. So I can't kind of see where he comes from. I mean, I'm not a pessimistic guy, although I have to say the last couple of weeks I've not been feeling very up about stuff because I'm just watching Starmer quietly walk back all of the Brexit vote, for example, and no one hardly is saying a word about it.
I think it's just more, we all just like, for example, with Brexit these days, I was just looking and go, we might as well bother voting to leave because what did we get? We just got flooded with a Boris wave. Like, and that happened under supposedly Brexiteer governments. Now, and you just said about thinking,
it never was, though. It never was a Brexiteer government, Mitch. And to be fair, I said at the time when Boris said, "I'll get Brexit done," I knew it was a con, and I said so. But you had people like Farage, for example, saying, "Oh no, all right now." And it was always going to be a con because they hadn't sorted out stuff about Northern Ireland. I mean, we had our stream a few weeks ago now when we talked about home rule and all the rest of it.
Technically, that's slightly one. They did solve Northern Ireland. They just surrendered it to the European Union.
So, yeah, that's really what I meant. Is that that wasn't acceptable and it shouldn't have been allowed. They never really sorted out some of the other stuff, European Court of Human Rights. Why is Britain in the European Court of Human Rights? Shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, I think David Stark had probably the best way of putting it, which is, so the European Court of Human Rights. Okay, where do we get the sense of European law from? Okay, it's literally just an abstraction born from the French Revolution, where we all have to, so the rights that we have as Englishmen, for example, now we're told by European concept of law that we must apply that universally. So a Somali just fresh off a boat is granted the same liberties as us. However, of course, we live in a egalitarian world. So, that Somali fella, he's disadvantaged because he comes from a country that's not doing too well. Therefore, the institutions have to privilege him over the likes of ourselves because historically we've been privileged, this family, but therefore, if he commits rape, he can get away with it. Whereas if we someone to say a naughty word online, we get shafted by the state. And of course, it's stuff like this where you even got I think, I don't know if it's Times or Telegraph or something, basically, even just like Centre Right, even someone like Fraser Nelson is like coming to the views of let's scrap the ECHR, which kind of tells you the direction of travel. Like,
yeah, you've got to do it, but I mean, also Starmer's taking Britain back into all sorts of EU military treaties, some of which we never left in the first place, and again we should have left all of them. I watched an article from Navy Lookout, which is a pro-Royal Navy group, and they were saying the EU needs a navy. Can Britain provide it? Well, no, that Britain can't provide the EU with a navy, partly because Britain doesn't have a navy anymore. The Royal Navy today is a pathetic force in terms of size. We got a whole 16 frigates and destroyers. We don't even have enough major surface escorts to escort our own carrier strike group. And we would struggle to put more than 24 aircraft on either of our very large carriers, which can supposedly take 36 strike aircraft. Although if I'll ever live to see 36 jets on them, I'll be surprised. British jets, anyway. It's like Britain doesn't have a navy herself, so we sure can't give the EU one. And why should we anyway? We're not in the EU. And then, of course, Starmer's also giving away many British fishing rights again in the North Sea and what have you. It's just a mess, mate. It's just a mess.
Yeah, that EU deal, they try to justify by going, oh, well, we're shortening the queues for e-gates. And I go, you just have a bit, so basically, so just so that, the middle class boomers who vote the Labour Party, they get to have shorter waiting times when they want to ski in the Alps for the third time this year.
Wow, that's so important. Not.
I mean,
but anyway, Baron Badger saying HMS Glasgow looks impressive. HMS Glasgow, the City class ships are quite impressive looking, but we're only building 6 of them, and the Royal Navy needs at least 12. But anyway, there you go. Sorry, Mitch, carry on, mate.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this going. On one hand, I can understand the pessimism, but at the same time, you can't just I look at Apostolic Majesty. So, for example, he's anti-reform. I remember back in September after that Edgerton interview, where Farage said he wasn't in favour of doing mass deportation. In terms of, I kind of adhere to the explanation that John gave, which was Farage said that we have to start somewhere, and it was kind of like one of the things where because the phrase mass deportations had a lot of its own at this point. You've got guys like Stephen Laws and others, and Farage, Farage isn't a courageous guy in the way people think he is. He likes to be a bit behind the curve. On one hand, caution is I understand that caution is best, but you can't expect a vanguardist approach from someone like Farage. As Aaron Hook would say, that Farage is the kind of guy who wants to be liked. So if you want Farage to start pivoting more our way, literally just flood the inbox of MPs and councillors by saying, oh, well, I want reform to harden on this particular issue or something. Eventually that fills it all the way to the top, and Farage will feel the pinch, and he'll feel he has to go more radical. Otherwise, people will just stop believing his hype. Which, for someone like Farage, this is just a consequence of, all leaders have it. Farage has a big sense of ego. Every leader has it, to be fair. Like Julius Caesar had a big ego on him, among other famous leaders of history. Farage, he can leverage that.
I don't know, Mitch. To me, you see, it's I'm not asking Farage to be radical. I want him to turn around and stick to what he originally said, which was, we will deport all illegal economic migrants, all those guys coming across the channel on little boats. We'll deport all of them, no exceptions, and we'll deport serious foreign criminals. That's all I want Farage to say, and I want him to stick to it. If he did that, I wouldn't complain about him.
I would complain about that in the sense that, well, if a Jack would say, the country's overpopulated, and just deporting the foreign criminals and
it's not enough, Mitch. I know it's not enough, but you've got to start somewhere, you know.
Yeah. Like I'm just thinking more. I think Republic is at that point where we go. It's they for example, I can talk to a bunch of guys woodworking, and they'll just say, like, and all their critiques a bit of a migration, it's all the legals. So I have a feeling Farage can go a lot further, even when how far he did during the general election.
Yes.
Like, if
Yeah,
he
no,
just went,
that's
okay, yeah. So I would say, actually, I'd push Farage even further than what he originally promised. I'd say, okay, start talking about legal migration in terms of, yeah, like, in terms of, for example, you have, let's say, I'll just say the Muslims. Most people, for example, Staffordshire was a massive win for reform, and yeah, my neck of the woods, we're not particularly too fond of the Muslims for obvious reasons because we live in close proximity to them, and
yeah.
also we have nice beautiful countryside that we don't want to see get plastered over for the sake of these people. So,
Well, I mean, it's like as soon as Rupert Lowe was kicked out of Reform, basically because he doesn't like the Muslim chairman, as far as I can work out. But as soon as he was kicked out of Reform, all of that stuff that had been going on about the so-called grooming gangs, and we all know that grooming gang is a euphemism for a mainly Muslim, mostly Pakistani child rape and torture gang. But, you have to call them grooming gangs. And as soon as that chap was kicked out of Reform, all talk of this and all talk of Reform's great public inquiry they were going to do was all dropped. Or, I mean, surely you must have noticed that, Mitch.
I would say I heard it explained as so Reform. They were saying they wanted. So I can't remember. It's a lot of legal jargon, and I'm not a lawyer. I heard it said that logistically it'd be impossible for Reform to do what they were originally planning, so they pivoted towards this technically different way. I haven't I talk to like lower middle rank types in Reform, and they're like, oh yeah, the party's still committed to the red gang stuff. It's just that apparently some of the wordings changed. I can't remember the words precisely because it's very legal jargon kind of stuff. But basically, the commitment's still there. It's just a matter of the inquiry. I don't get why he's talking about this. We know what the problem is. We've literally got a government full of traitors, we've got institutions full of traitors, and we've got a minority who should just all be deported. That's just simple good brain. For me, I don't need an inquiry to tell me what my own eyes and ears can report. I mean, but Pakistan is close to me. Who, yeah, I wouldn't want to live close to them, but I'm forced to.
I know, but I've Mitch, you know this. I've had arguments with people who support the Reform leadership, who literally will turn around and say, "Oh yeah, no, people would never want their Pakistani neighbours to be deported," and I know that's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. But the more Pakistani neighbours you've got, the more likely you are to support deportations, to be honest. But the people who say that, of course, don't have Pakistani neighbours.
So the thing about that is, so you have, for example, my local corner shop is run by Pakistanis, and it's been so since before I was born. Now, the Pakistani family that own that place, they don't speak English that well, and they've been here longer than I've been alive. That's how long they've been here.
Yeah,
They don't speak English well. Now, people around me, we're just lazy. Like that, I mean, a lot of problems can be solved by, first of all, shaking English through laziness. That being said, if you were to ask every punter around here, would you deport the Muslims? I'd say comfortably, 70% would say yeah, they'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I know that's the case, Mitch. The point I'm trying to make is there are people who support the Reform leadership who won't agree with that. They really did. No matter what evidence you show them, they won't agree with it. They'll say, no, British people are nice. They don't want to do anything bad,
I know what he wanted to be with this, and I think
Yeah,
he's a matter
yeah.
of him misreading the way people. Like, for example, you know, there are people like my mother who will go to a Vietnamese nail bar to get their nails done, but on the same breath, they'll say they want illegals chucked out. Now, a lot of that is just literally convenience for people. It's not the same with Amazon. I get my books off Amazon. It's
Mm.
not perfect because they use a lot of migrants who can barely speak English, whether they be Polish or Pakistani or whatever. But it's a matter of, well, there's not really much choice in that because other companies that deliver books are also stuff for the foreigners or stuff full of woke crap. It's just that Amazon are the least egregious, so I just have to go with them. But that's not, but that sort of convenience doesn't go hand in hand with supporting mass immigration or whatever. I think that's sort of misreading the guy you're talking about, misreads about British people there. And
Yeah, no, it's true, Mitch. I know it's true, mate. Look, I'll give you an example. Okay, now obviously I'm not in England. I'm in Australia, but I used to get my groceries delivered, and all of the taxi drivers in Australia, well, not all, but like probably 95% of them are Indian or Asian, like Indian, Pakistani, something like that. 95% of them. Same thing with the Uber drivers and all the rest of it. So the people delivering my food were invariably these sorts of people. And I got a guy delivering to me, it would have been a couple of months ago now, and there was stuff in my order that was missing. So I said to him, no, mate, I'm not taking this. This is not what I ordered and not what I got charged for. And I got accused of being racist. Because that's the first thing they go to. If these people do something wrong, and you try and pull them about something, and this had nothing to do with race whatsoever. It was merely the order that he delivered was not what I ordered and not what I paid for. And this dude, his immediate thing was to say, "Oh, you're being racist." It's like you can't be dealing with these people, mate.
yeah, I think
Because that's the way they always go and how they always behave.
yeah, I can't remember who said it on Twitter, but someone said basically a lot of these people are occupied on a tribal mindset where it's like you can't accept any loss of face, so they'll literally bullshit you rather than admit any sort of responsibility or admit they screwed up. Because like in our country, for example, we go on like codes of accepting responsibility if you fail at something, whereas in the third world, completely different story. So our standards just can't be completed by these people. So that's one reason why, I. It's like if you articulate that towards the average reform lower rank supporter, they'll actually agree with it. They can't articulate it very well, but they generally have the same standards as we do. Like for example, I know some women who own farms near me. Now they don't live near any of the diversity, so they believe in some of the cushy diversity stuff. But
Uh-huh.
when you look at the people they spend their time around, it's as wide as the Cotswolds. For example, if they hire a taxi driver to convey people to these farms, it's all white British. Even though they have plenty of opportunities to hire foreigners like Indians, they never hire an Indian for obvious reasons. So it's not even like unconscious bias on part of people. It's just like they're ethnocentric. Even when because you got facts as if these people live in rural locations, but don't live near any of the diversity. Their nearest neighbours are other white British people who've been around here since before the Doomsday Book.
Yep.
Who've on farms
Yeah,
for
no,
generations.
I know what you're going at, Mitch, and I totally agree with you. But it's like, I don't know. Anyway, in my case, I just stopped getting my groceries delivered. I just said, well, take it back, and I just got hold of Woolworths, the supermarket chain, and said to them, I want a refund. Got my refund, and I just don't use it anymore, basically.
Yeah, so that's kind of like that's pretty much what the average Englishman is kind of think. Like, for example, yeah, plenty of Englishmen use Amazon, like myself and Aaron Hook. Like, we use Amazon
Yeah,
to get books.
I use
Or,
it. I use
yeah,
it too, mate. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, we have to have foreigners serve us because they just love, because basically we don't have a tight labour market like we should, so we just have foreigners overrunning things, and consequently, yeah, the service is bad. But at the end of the day, we can't. But how many white British people work for Amazon? Not very many these days. Once in a blue moon. But that can't be mistaken as supporting mass migration just because we have to live with reality of, oh, well, we're being battery farmers people. It's a matter of,
Yeah.
we're just doing it for convenience. We're doing it because, you know, sorry, like, there are just some books where I'm just going to buy them on the cheap from somewhere like Amazon. And I
Yeah,
just have to,
I'm
yeah.
exactly the same, Mish. I'm not criticizing you at all, mate. And
No,
apart
I
from
get,
anything,
no,
apart
no,
from
I'm just
anything
like,
else,
no, I'm just like,
Amazon pays shit wages, and they pay shit wages because there's so many immigrants who will work for peanuts in Britain.
yeah, I was just like supporting points of, oh yeah, the whole point of, oh well, British people are too nice towards the migrants. Well, it's not really as true as people might believe, because first of all, people self-segregate. That's just reality. I mean, I know leftists near me, near my neck of the woods. Uh, Even when we were at university, dealing with a diverse environment, they just prefer hanging around people. That's just the way they are. Like that's natural human reality. People just want to go to those who are similar to them. So
Yeah, no, absolutely, I know
yeah,
that.
yeah. Then there's also the fact that well, the vast majority of migrants have imported. Well, where do they live? Oh, Tower Hamlets, Smethwick, Smallheath, Bradford, and so on. Places where trying to spot a white man is like playing Where's Wally or
Yeah,
Where's Waldo for Americans in the audience. So
yeah, no, I know that's true, mate. I do know that's true. Um, but we're probably going to do a pretty short stream this evening, I suspect. Because I'm a bit like you, I haven't really been following stuff that closely this last week or so. And if I don't have so many subjects that I want to talk about. And also, we don't have many guests this week because I know AI is not coming on. And also, unfortunately, Aaron Hook's a bit sick. Hopefully, he will get well soon. But anyway, I did want to talk briefly about this farm murder stuff in South Africa. People will tell you it's not true and what have you. Well, at least 3 of my friends have been murdered in South Africa since 2000. And let me tell you that 3 of your friends being murdered is an exceptionally high rate. The idea that there isn't murders of white people, and particularly white farmers, isolated white farmers in South Africa, is it's a nonsense. It's very much true. It's encouraged more or less by the ANC government. People like that scumbag Julius Malema absolutely support it with his songs about killing the Boer and all the rest of it. So yeah, it is definitely a true story in South Africa. I'm glad Trump is talking about it. I've seen people saying that the only reason Trump's talking about it is because South Africa doesn't like Israel these days. I don't know if that's true or not, to be honest with you. And frankly,
I
I don't
really
care.
don't. I don't buy this because there are plenty of people around Trump who are talking. I mean, you had Lauren Southern like 7 years ago making a documentary about South Africa. Like this kind of stuff about South Africa being in the pipeline for ages. So I reckon it's just organic, moving, like just people in the Trump train. It just moved, the idea just traveled through them and eventually got into Trump's inner circle. Trump finds out and he consequently wants to get answers because, yeah, there are good grounds to criticize Trump. However, Trump is more on our side on stuff like this when it comes to like Trump's not anti-white in the slightest. When it comes across white farmers getting killed off, and he keeps saying like white farmers apparently, like just kept saying it when Cyril Ramaphosa kept
Yeah.
trying to gaslight him. So it's just like Trump. fully is cognizant of the reality of all this. He's not trying to describe it away without saving that boomerish reason. Like, because I saw some, it's mainly leftists who argue this way, but they go, oh, well, some of these farmers getting killed are black. And they go, how many black farmers are there in South Africa? I don't imagine that many compared to what
No, what does sometimes happen is black farm workers get murdered as well if they're loyal to the farmer. You know, that does happen sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I genuinely, yeah, I'm looking at, for example, I think one thing I found funny was there was that famous photo of like a chubby South African fella getting off a plane,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
the guy
saw
like, oh, and I thought this guy's not starving, and I go, yeah, because he's the one making all the food, but
that.
you know who will starve?
Well,
Yeah,
you know, we all saw what happened in Rhodesia, which was the breadbasket of Africa, and within a few years of the white government falling and the terrorist Mugabe taking over, there was famine in Zimbabwe. And the same thing would happen in South Africa if the white farmers did leave in large numbers. There would be a famine there, no doubt of that whatsoever.
yeah, yeah. You have what is it? Yeah. I don't know, but this is one issue where this issue can actually make me very cynical and pessimistic along the lines of apostolic majesty because apparently earlier this year there's a slaughter of 200 elephants in Zimbabwe to feed people because all the farms just weren't producing enough food, and it's just like, yeah, you kind of get the sense of, uh, yeah, I think Aubrey was earlier talking about how this was sending the radical left into a spiral, and I go, yeah, because those kind of people are just driven by hating white people.
Yep,
Like,
pretty much.
that's one thing about it. Someone like Starmer could be, let's say, Blair Boss. You can have someone like Jeremy Corbyn, or you can have someone like Al Gore, or uh, Bernie Sanders, or Kamala Harris. And these people are just massively different ideologies. Like they might believe somewhat in the free market, or these people might be just communists or whatever. But one thing we all have in common is basically just all hate actual white people. Like that's the one thing that unifies all leftism in the
100%,
West.
including
Hating white people.
including the white leftists. Yes, absolutely, that's very true.
Yeah,
And even a lot of white liberals don't really like white people. You know, the sorts of people who become BBC presenters and people like
yeah, and it's
that.
yeah. I was gonna say another thing was oh, I lost my train of thought a bit. I mean, I think like the funny thing was so you have Julius Malema over in South Africa. Right? For example, he was asked one time, well, if you kill all the farmers, where do we get the food from? And they go, oh, we get the food from the supermarket.
Yeah, these people are, that's about their level of intellect, man. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah, and I saw I remember Lotus Eaters doing a segment on it, and it said, and they brought up an article about saying the Zulus are siding with the Afrikaners about the farm seizures. And I thought,
They normally have. That's like in Inkatha, the Zulus who support the Inkatha Freedom Party have been doing that for quite a long time, to be honest.
yeah, what's the rationale beyond that? Because I thought the Zulus and the Boers still had a blood grudge over what happened 200 years
No,
or so ago.
not really. No, the Zulu Inkatha Freedom Party, because it's a Zulu nationalist party, doesn't like the ANC, and that's much more important.
Oh yeah, because the ANC is dominated by was it ex-Holzers? Like I think
Yeah,
there was
but
an ex.
mostly Dorza, but also some other. You got to remember, there's, I don't know, something like 32 black tribes in South Africa
Yeah, because you got
of various sizes.
yeah they reckon because you have like for example they reckon something like 200 tribes, but a lot of those were just destroyed and assimilated by the Zulu Empire under Shaka. So and also you got obviously I was a bit ex-Holzer who uh
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of different black tribes there, but then also in the Cape, because you've got the Cape Independence Movement, which is also quite interesting.
other Khoisan people.
Yeah, you've got some Khoisan people there, but you've also got the coloureds, who are mixed race people, and they're called coloureds. They call themselves coloureds.
I thought the Cape Colours were the Indians. Like
No. The Indians are another different group. Particularly in Natal, India is Durban in Natal is the biggest Indian city outside of the Indian subcontinent. But that's a different group again. Whereas the coloured people are mixed race people, basically. And they tend to side in the Cape mostly with the white guys because, again, they don't want to be dominated by the ANC, because the ANC's deal is they want to dominate all the minority groups in South Africa.
Yeah, so I can't remember, I think it was Luca Johnson or someone else like that, but basically said, "Oh yeah, you can imagine like they do like a sequel to Zulu, but instead it's like Adendorf's descendants fighting on the same side as Zulus against like the ANC."
Possible, mate. Possible. All things are possible. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up. I mean, I lived in South Africa for 15 years, many friends there. And as I say, 3 of my friends since 2000 have been murdered there. And that's 3 I know about. It could easily be more because I haven't kept in touch with all of them.
Yeah.
So, this stuff is not a lie. It is real.
Yeah.
Any final stuff you wanted to bring up, Mitch?
Yeah. Not one functional traffic lights in Johannesburg. Apparently AA. He spent some time in Johannesburg, and I think like the entire time he was there with his wife, and he was only there for the sake of like catching another flight because of the connecting one. He had to have, he and his wife had to be escorted by security all the entire time they were there. I mean, I only really spent time there in the airport, so I think particularly go. Apparently, they did go out one time to like the highest structure in Johannesburg, which is basically just a tall car park, and he basically there's like a graphic drawing or something of Nelson Mandela or something, or his lot back in '94 going, was it like New World or something like that? Some rhetoric they had a bit, creating like a new South Africa that would be best for all. And it's
the Rainbow Nation bullshit. It was all bullshit. But,
this is the thing. Like Trump demolishing this narrative of a Rainbow Nation being a wholesome Chungus gang. It's kind of like very damn good because plenty of boomers near me, and this includes people in my own family. They genuinely believe in some of the multiculturalism.
Well, there you go. It's weird because like I liked when I lived in South Africa. I lived in northern Natal, and which is in a rural area, I lived in northern. Hopefully, Mitchell will be back in a sec. I lived in northern Natal in a rural area, and I got on well with the Zulu guys. I liked them. The traditional Zulu guys, particularly in the rural areas, I liked them. They were nice people for the most part. Very different. Wouldn't want them running the country, but there we go. Sorry, Mitch.
The Zulus just strike me as they're just crooked brains, but respectful, I suppose. Like like they don't you don't really see much of a victimhood complex from them in the same way you get from other black groups like the ex-hosers regarding apartheid, from what I've heard.
Yep. I'll tell you, within 10 years of the ANC taking over, I heard black people saying, "I wish the white government was back."
Yeah, I saw something on Facebook where, and this was back when I was on Facebook 5 or 6 years ago, where it was like the birthday of Ian Smith, and all these Zimbabweans, like Zimbabwean boomers and what, they were just like, "Oh, we want the white people back now. Like we want to be under the white man again," because Mugabe was just that bad, and Zimbabwe nowadays isn't. Like apparently Zimbabwe's
They
for farmers, but it's not
You'll be
successful.
lucky. You'll be lucky, Mitch. Did you see that that film that Callum made when he went there?
I haven't watched that for ages.
It's really eye-opening, particularly if you compare what Rhodesia looked like in the 60s and the early 70s and what Zimbabwe looks like today. It's very eye-opening. It's just everything's wrecked. Nothing works. There's unemployed black guys everywhere. It's just a shithole. It's just amazing.
I think there's like a common Zimbabwean joke where it goes, "Oh, what did we use before candles?" And they go, "Electricity."
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, guys, I think we're gonna, unless Mitch has got anything else he wants to talk about. Do you have anything else you want to talk about, Mitch?
In terms of topics, not really. I would just say as a final comment. I mean, it was only 60, but I hope this doesn't become a thing where literally all the Afrikaners go over to America, because what happens is they'll just get assimilated, and then the Afrikaner culture and the language and all that just disappear after a few generations.
I do agree, and I don't think I don't think they all will. I mean, you got to understand the Afrikaners have been in South Africa since before the USA was a thing.
1652, which was 57 years before the Zulu showed up. So when you see leftists say that the blacks are native to South Africa, well, the Bantus aren't, like the Zulus and their closers.
No, they came from Central East Africa for sure. But you've also got to you got to remember the Afrikaners have been in South Africa from about the same time as the English Civil War, with Charles I and Cromwell. That's how long they've been in South Africa. It's their country as much as anybody else's, actually. In fact, more, because they did more to build it up. Certainly than most of the ANC ever did. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
But so I don't think the majority of them will leave. But I mean, I don't understand someone who did. But you've also got to remember that if you leave, you will get min money for your farmland or property. And South Africa's currency is worth jack shit. So that when you do move, you're basically having to start again from scratch, really.
Yeah. The only thing I forgot to mention was so apparently part of the clip about because Trump had a part of the video where he said, like, I think it was like Ramaphosa or Malema, they said, "Oh well, we'll take their land with compensation, and if they don't like it, they can go over to America." So it was literally like Trump just like literally doing a proverbial rubbing the dog's nose in their own shit when he's showing that little clip to Ramaphosa. So I just thought that was a bit funny off Trump's part. Like, he literally just had a bit of comedy moment there where it was a matter of literally just rubbing Ramaphosa's face in his own crap, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with any of that, mate. The Seb Angler's talking about poaching and killing wildlife and in the game reserves and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, basically game reserves and national parks and this sort of thing is a very white thing, to be honest with you. It really is. It's not something the Africans would do on their own, by and large. Or ever would have either, by the way. But yeah, true story. We did get a donation on Entropy. Thank you to Garen, who sent us $5 US dollars and just said hello. So thank you very much, Garen, for your support. It's always most welcome. Spend quite a lot of money on this channel these days because I have to, because we're doing more streaming and what have you. This is going to be a bit of a short stream this week, guys. As I say, Mitch and I have been a bit out of the loop, and we don't have other guests at the moment. As I said, I was due to be doing a review of Patrick O'Brien's HMS Surprise this time tomorrow. But Aaron Hook is not feeling too well, which is why he wasn't on here this evening. And he did say to me he may have to cancel that as well. So I might be on there doing that tomorrow, or it might be postponed for a week or a couple of days or whatever. But I look forward to doing that, actually, because I'm a big Patrick O'Brien fan. And HMS Surprise is a good, easy book to start on the Aubrey Maturin series. And for anyone who doesn't know, they're the novels that Master and Commander, the brilliant film Master and Commander in 2003, was based on. So yeah, there'll be that. And we will be back on Wednesday for our history stream. Just to remind people that on last Wednesday we did a stream on it was mainly on the Battle of Britain and the myth that the Germans could have ever invaded Britain. Mitch was a guest on that stream as well. We also talked a bit about appeasement and rearmament. And if you're interested in history and that kind of era, you'd probably find that stream interesting. Do go and check it out. We'll have another history stream this time on Wednesday, British time, which is Thursday, very early Thursday morning for me. Don't know what we'll be doing yet, but it will be something interesting. So we'll be doing that. Thank you very much to my guest, Mitch. And I'm going to try and play us out with a tune, but I don't know if it'll work, but we'll give it a go. Why not?
or wasn't viewers. Hope you enjoyed.
Okay, that was Queen Victoria's Own March from Patriotic Archive, who's a friend of the channel and has an excellent channel on YouTube. Do go and check him out if you'd like to find some good military, naval, and also folk music these days. So go and check that out. And I would also say to everybody, Happy Empire Day, because the 24th of May used to be British Empire Day. So happy British Empire Day, people. In the meantime, see you all on Wednesday, and don't let the bastards grind you down.